Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started on our backs. You can bring the hula hoop and just place the hoop on the side next to you. We'll have the knees bent and then spread the feet pretty wide, and then we'll knock our knees in towards each other. And Kim, since you and I have started a lot like this before, I don't know if I've ever told you to do the exact opposite, but if you want to just see the difference and why we start this way, you can wiggle your feet in closer and then let the knees go spread apart. And then just notice what happened to the very low back. So if you're like, I have no idea what happened to the low back, then just do the opposite and bring the heels away and then knock the knees in towards each other. And just, can you sense that when you do that, your low back provides a little bit more space? But then when you bring the heels in, knees apart, it brings the low back in and contracts it in towards one another. So just the reason why we start in a constructive rest is just to spread that low back away and widen it out. And just give us a little bit more calm. Do whatever you want with the hands. If you want to place them on your belly, on the heart, or have them on the ground. We're just going to take about 6 to 8 breaths here, laying down with the eyes closed. If that low back is flat on the ground, can you think of the inner thighs drawing towards your feet, and getting that little lumbar curve lifted off of the earth? Can you check in with your shoulders and see, are your shoulders really lifting up towards the ceiling? And if they are, can you try to bring heaviness into the very tops of the arms? Notice, how does the neck feel? Does the neck feel kind of crunched? And if so, can you think of the very top of the crown of the head lifting away from the shoulders? And can you feel a little sense of the back of the skull feeling like it's hammocking into the ground? Take another good breath here. Relaxing down. Notice where you take your next breath from. Do you feel more rise in the chest? Do you feel more rise in the belly? Do you feel more rise in the throat? Or even in the brain? And for the next breath, can you try to control it and breathe in from the low belly first, and then let that breath travel up to the collarbone and let the collarbone get so wide that it feels like your arms are getting longer. And when you release all that breath, can you allow the next breath to travel from the very low back and the front, and travel it from the back and the front all the way up to the fingertips, to the crown of the head, coming out the ears. And when you release that breath, can you feel that oxygen releasing all the way down into the pelvic floor? Bring that calm with you and begin to wiggle the feet in a little bit closer, and then hug that right knee in towards your chest. Just grabbing onto the shin and letting that knee come in tight. And then just notice what's going on with the foot. Maybe it's complacent for a moment, but as you draw that knee in, can you think of extending out through that lifted heel, as if the heel is moving away from the knee? Draw the attention into the shoulders and encourage them back down closer to the earth. We'll release that knee, bring the foot to the earth, and then bring the left knee into the chest. Hug it on in there. It's okay if the pelvis kind of tilted and that low back is on the ground for a moment. We'll change that in a bit, but draw that knee in close and then extend the heel away and feel that effort. We'll bring that foot back on down to the ground. Bring the right knee into the chest. Hug it in. And then travel those hands behind the thigh. And walk that hand as though you're going to try to bring that hand almost onto your butt. So you're trying to go all the way as high as you can. You might have fingers interlaced or you might not. And then press the very, very top of that right thigh into the hands. And can you sense when you bring just the very top of the thigh, pressing it into the hands, still draw those shoulders down towards the mat. Can you sense that the right side of your torso is getting a little bit longer? And that knee might not be as close to the chest. That's okay. For a breath, let's reach that heel up towards the sky. When you release that breath, bring the heel back to the ground. And then bring that left knee into the chest. Hug it on in with the hands on the shins. And then travel those hands behind the thigh and walk them all the way up as high as you can on the leg. Press that very top of the thigh into the hands. Extend out through the heel as well. And then just encourage the shoulder blades towards the earth. And for a breath, lift that heel up towards the sky. Exhale, we'll bring that foot down. Go ahead, grab the hula hoop. Bring the right foot onto the hoop itself. And then lift that heel up towards the sky. Go ahead and begin to lower that left foot onto the ground. Encourage the whole left leg onto the earth. Extend out through both heels. And then pick up that hoop and bring it right to wrap the hoop around the leg. And bring that hula hoop all the way up to the very, very top of both legs. And then press that hoop into the back of the lifted leg and the lifted leg into the hula hoop. Even while you're trying to press the very, very top of that right leg into the hula hoop, the rest of the leg is still trying to come up towards the crown of the head. If you need to keep a mini bend in the knee, that's totally fine. Take a good breath. And then we'll keep that hoop behind the leg and lift the part that's closest to your nose up towards the top of the foot. So this is where I'm not completely sure how it's going to work for everybody and every hula hoop, but perhaps the hula hoop will come onto that lifted foot and it's still behind the leg. And we'll extend out through that lifted heel. And if that doesn't work for, I'll say, my mom when she does this recording, then let's talk. And we'll do it, but I can see you, Kim, and it looks like it's working good. So with our hands on either side of the hoop, just one more time, we'll press the very top of that hoop into the back of the thigh into the hoop, lift out through both heels, and then slowly release and encourage that foot down. We'll just bring that hoop to the side and let the leg lower. Just take one breath, allow those legs to flop away from each other and see, can you sense that rotation of opening the thighs can begin at the very top of the hips. And then we'll bend both of the knees. Bring the left foot on top of the hoop, and we'll raise that foot all the way up to the sky, encouraging those toes towards the nose, extending out through the heel, and then lower that right leg onto the ground. So if this right leg is really, really lifted, then maybe the lifted leg is coming, it's too far up towards the chest. So just bring attention to that straight leg first and encourage the inner thigh towards the earth. And maybe that lifted leg isn't so close. That's totally fine. So let's go ahead and wrap the hoop around the leg. Bring it to the very top of the lifted thigh. And press the very top of the thigh into the hoop while still trying to bring the foot close to the chest. What's going on with the shoulders? What's going on with the neck? Can you try to create a longer neck? And make sure to breathe here. We're doing a lot of work with the pelvic floor right now, even though it might seem like you're only doing work to the leg. You're doing more than you think. Let's go ahead and bring that hoop, now the part that's closest to your face, lift it up towards the foot. And so that hoop should still be behind you, and it should also still be encouraging the inner thigh of that outstretched leg on the floor, so down to the earth. And press that heel towards the sky. Trying to create some space between the inner thighs. Take one more breath here. And then release the hoop and slowly lower that leg down towards the earth. Allow yourself to take a good couple breaths here. In yoga, we do need to find stillness. We'll roll over to one side and we'll get onto our hands and our knees. And if you feel like I did a lot of toning, we'll get some stretching too. We'll bring the hoop into the middle of the mat and bring your hands onto the outside. You can bring the feet and the knees onto the inside and spread those fingers wide. You can have the toes curled under or flat on the earth, whichever one you want to do for right now. And we'll find some cat-cow. So raising the gaze, drawing the shoulder blades down the spine, trying to let the heart go far away from the pelvic floor. Take your exhale here and try to create longer arms. And then find your own fluid movement, finding the arch, finding the round. Just move how it feels good. Two more breaths here. Come to a neutral spine. Curl those toes under, lift the knees, and come back to your first downward facing dog. Maybe the heels touch the hoop. We're actually going to do something here where we're going to bend first that right knee and bend it so much and like fall into the right side. Allow yourself to get totally out of alignment. So that left leg is straight, that right knee is bent. And then bring the attention just to the very top of the right thigh and think of the right top of the thigh moving in and then back while still keeping the right leg bent. So the very top of the thigh is encouraging the equalizing and coming back into balance. Then bend the left leg and straighten the right and just come out a little bit as though the left hip starts kicking out towards the left. And then top of the thigh encourages the thigh back and slightly in. Now we're going to bend both of the knees quite a bit. Keep the knees bent and think tops of thighs moving back, tops of thighs raising to the sky. The arms may feel as though the arms are getting a little bit longer. And then maybe you're like, I really want to start straightening the legs. Go ahead and begin to straighten the legs. Take a good breath wherever you are. And then on your next inhale, come out to plank pose. Feel free to lower the knees or take full chaturanga, allowing the elbows to grace the ribs. Flatten the toenails onto the earth. If you wanted to get that hula hoop right underneath your hips, you're welcome to, and it can serve as a little slide up here. You'll bring your hands on either side of the collarbone and inhale, lift up to a little baby cobra. Exhale, we'll come down and do 2 more of those. Legs long as you lift up. Exhale down. And 1 more. Wow, Jackson is the best dog. So cute. Go ahead, we'll move, make our way back to downward facing dog. It's like, what a good yoga doggy. Great, let's lift that right foot up towards the sky and then step that foot forward in between the hands. We'll go ahead and bring that back knee down on the inside of the hoop. Pick up the foot and bring the hoop onto the inside. It's kind of funky. We'll bring our head into it as well until it gets all the way in front of us. So here, get to the very top of that back knee. Bring this hula hoop all the way up. Yep, we're getting fresh again, and it's going to come right to the very top of that front thigh. It's actually on both of the thighs. So we're going to, the effort in the coronal plane is that front thigh is drawing back and down into the hamstring. So think about pressing the thigh down into the hamstring, and then this back thigh is pressing a little bit forward into the hoop. They both want to make connection to this hula hoop. So you can think tailbone slightly heavy, bring a lot of attention to the hip flexor of that back leg. Oh, I'm sorry, Jackson, did I say your name and then you got excited and you're like, no, right, I'm the best doggy? All right, go ahead, bring that hula hoop right in front to that front heel. It's behind the front heel. Have those back toes curled under. You can bring your hands on top of the hula hoop as though you're going to use it for balance, and then lift that back knee up. We're coming to this high lunge with our torso over that front thigh. So doing a lot of work of really thinking of this back hip. Know how we did that when we were on the ground, where we pressed our hand into the thigh and made our torso a little bit longer. If we hold on to this chunk of hip, this front hip, and draw the hip crease back, can you sense that the side of your torso gets a little bit longer, the heart moving forward? Great, take 2 more breaths here, perhaps sinking a little deeper. So yeah, our torso is not above the hips right now. We're leaning over that front leg. We'll go ahead, bring that knee down. We'll bring this hula hoop just right in front. Let it plop there. Pick up that back knee, step back. We'll go straight to downward facing dog. One more breath here. Go ahead, pick up that left foot. Exhale, bring that knee forward. Step it into the hula hoop. If it doesn't make it there, just help the foot up along the way. Bring that back knee down. Now the hoop's in front of us, and we're going to lift it to the very top of that front hamstring and back thigh. So this back hip slightly pressing forward into that hoop while the hoop catches this front hip and draws it back. We're trying to find our center. Once you do find your center, think of inner thighs spreading away from one another. Make sure to breathe here. One more breath. And then we'll bring that hoop behind the front heel. Get nice and firm in this front heel. And bring your hands at wherever it works for you. And lift that back knee up, extending that inner thigh back. So again, our torso is just falling over this front leg, but can we lift that low belly up to the spine? And if you like that modification of using your hand, bringing it to the front hip and drawing the hip crease back while you keep moving the heart forward. And the hardest part is finding the same amount of time on this side as the other side. Papa keeps meowing. Come on. Come on. Oh, well, you were at the door. Never mind. Okay, there you are. Thanks for making your appearance. I was being jealous of Jackson. All right, so then we've been in there probably the same amount of time. Go ahead and let the hoop just come to frame that front foot, fall to the top of the mat, and we'll step back, downward facing dog. Taking 2 more breaths here. Thinking very top of the thighs, pressing back to the wall behind you. Go ahead, lift on up, come out to plank pose, step 1 foot forward and then the other. Forward fold here. We'll pick up the hoop and lift all the way up, raising the hoop above. And exhale, bring the hoop right in front of you. Taking a moment to find your feet, finding your stance. It's the first time we're standing. I put the camera right in front of Papa's food. So you get a little kitty action there. Hi. Alrighty, so holding onto the hoop with both hands, we'll press in a little bit more with the pinky side of the hand. And inhale, raise the hoop to the sky. Exhale, we'll fold over. Inhale, come to a flat back. Having the knees bent is totally acceptable. Exhale, we'll fold. Hold onto the hoop with both hands. Lift on up and we'll come all the way to Tadasana Salute, raising the arms up high. Exhale, we'll fold. We're going to find this one more time. So let the head get heavy. Inhale to flat back, pressing the tops of the thighs away from the crown of the head. Fold over again. You can keep the hoop at the hip crease as you lift up, frame the body, and then raise it all the way to the sky. Exhale, we'll fold again, and this time we'll move forward. Once you come to your half flat back, we'll step that right foot back and come to this high lunge. Bring that hoop and bring it in front of that front foot at an arm's distance. So we're coming to this high lunge again but you're leaning forward. Doing a lot of work of leveling the hips, inner thighs drawing away from one another as outer hips drawing in. If you want to come up to the very tippy toe of that back foot and then extend back through the heel and do that a couple times, it kind of feels a little nice sometimes. And then a part of you is probably like really aching to get that torso up and over the hips. So let's go ahead and hold on to the hoop with both hands on 12. And then flip the hoop up and over as you lift the torso up and over the hips. Let that tailbone get nice and heavy. Bend into that front leg. Keep raising the hoop up, trying not to get into a back bend here, but keep the heart over the pelvic floor. Take one more breath. And we'll flip the hoop forward and over. Step forward and we'll forward fold. Inhale to flat back. Step that left foot back as far as it'll go, wiggling it along if you need to, and then reach that hoop forward. Allow the navel to be in between the legs, reaching the hands forward while hugging this front hip in and back. And again, if you wanted to lift up to the toes of that back foot and then extend that inner thigh back to the heels and just find a little movement, you're welcome to. You don't have to. You don't have to do anything I say. That's the beauty of life. All right, let's go ahead and hold on to that hoop at noon. We'll lift it up over the head and reach the hands high, sinking the hips down while reaching the fingertips in the opposite direction. Can you for a moment think of lifting the low belly up and off of the legs? One more breath. And flip that hoop over, step forward. We'll come to a forward fold. And then here we'll bend into our chair pose. That hoop will just get snug into our hip crease and the bottom will lift off the ground. From here, maybe find how much tuck and tilt do you need. Do a little bit of both actions and try to find somewhere in the middle to where that tailbone's slightly heavy, but the thighs can still move back and down. When you feel nice and secure, reach that hoop forward and then up. So I'm going to do something new with you today that I'm excited for. I took a class last Sunday, and this gal, her name's Kelly, she did something so fun, and I've done it in every single one of my classes since in this week, except for yoga round, so it'll be slightly different. But we're going to stay in our chair pose, but then reach our heart forward, the hoop forward as well. Hip crease moves the opposite way. We'll do this once, but we'll find it a few times. And then what we're going to do is press down into the feet as you lift up, straightening the legs, bring the hoop behind you, and then a little bit of an arch. Opening that front body, and then flip the hoop, fold over it. If it didn't come so naturally, again, we'll find it again. Come to a half flat back. And then step that right foot back. We're going to find warrior one, so that foot will point to the right corner of the mat. Bring this hoop to that inside of that front leg. Again, getting totally fresh, but we'll use this hoop to get it attached to that inner thigh and draw that front inner thigh back. That back inner thigh is drawing in and then back. So here we'll fold over this front hoop as like trying to lift the belly button up and trying to travel it over the hoop as best as possible. We'll hold on to the hoop with the same hand as the front knee. Speaking of the front knee, can we find a little bit more bend in it? And then straighten that right hand out. Get really firm in that back heel as you reach the right hand forward. Can you feel that right side get so long? But then bring that left hip crease slightly back. And then can you feel the left side get just as long as the right? So here you can keep your left hand on top of the hoop as we inhale and lift about a half of the way up. Exhale here and then lift all the way up. Exhale here and take another breath as you still try to bend into that front leg. And then exhale, release, roll the hoop forward, step forward. We'll forward fold. Release all that. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold again. We'll come to that chair pose. Reach the hoop forward and up. We'll take 3 breaths in our chair pose without folding. Good for the legs, good for the core, good for the arms. And then here we'll fold halfway, torso about parallel to the ground. If you want to take it one step further, lift the heels off the ground as though you're diving off of a diving board. And then when you're ready, clamp the heels down, lift up, find a little bit of an arch, and then fold over. We'll inhale to a flat back and then step the left foot back and point it to the left corner of your mat. We'll draw this hoop to the inside of that inner thigh. I know you know this stuff, Kim, but sometimes I'm saying some of the cues, not for you, but for my mom. So draw this front hip back. Get nice and firm in that back foot. That's right, that's what I was gonna say. Mom, it could either be a heel-to-heel alignment, or you're welcome to wiggle this front foot out a little bit farther to the right so that it helps a little bit more with balance. Whenever you feel nice and secure, literally just lift the torso up and then fold over that hoop. Don't fall onto it, fold over it. All right, let's go ahead and reach that left hand forward, get nice and long on that left side body. And then try to make the right side of the torso just as long. And then take 2 breaths to get the torso over the hips. Take enough inhale and lift up. Exhale and take another inhale. Get nice and long in that side body all the way from that back heel out the fingertips. And then we'll go ahead, release, roll that hoop forward, step forward. We'll fold. We'll go right into the chair pose. We'll do that twice more. So coming up, chair pose, reach the hoop forward and then up. Just because the more times we do something, the more fluid and more fun it will come. So when you're ready, another way to do it, I know I've had it in front of the head this whole time. I actually was practicing it before with it behind our head. So that's also the fun thing about hoop yoga is don't get too attached to how someone's instructing. If it works for you a different way, try it a different way. But yeah, if you put it behind your head, it's also cool. And we'll fold halfway. And when you're ready, maybe the heels are lifted. We'll go ahead, clamp the heels down, lift up, find a little bit. And then flip the hoop in front of you and fold over. Inhale to flat back. Step that right foot back. Finding your warrior one. We'll do it a little bit quicker. If you want to still have the assist with the hoop right here in the middle, awesome. Or if you want to, hold on to it with both of your hands and go ahead, rise up and find your warrior one. Either one is totally great, whatever you do. And one more breath. This time we'll flip that hula hoop over. I'm sorry if it was over, if it was right in the inner thigh, then just go ahead and roll it to the top of this front thigh. Step that back foot in, maybe 2 inches or so, give or take, still pointing to the right corner of your mat. And then this front leg will be nice and straight. So placing the hoop at the top of this front thigh, encourage that front thigh back. Okay, we'll place the hands on top of the hoop, lift up and exhale. We'll fold over these 2 straight legs. You can keep a mini bend in that front knee if it's hyperextending. But even if you have a mini bend in that front leg, think the very, very, very top of the thigh is lifting up and into the hula hoop, up and back. I guess it's the opposite, the front hoop, the front thigh. Anyways, lift the front thigh up and back. And if folding all the way down is too much, just find your hands anywhere on the hoop. You can come to a flat back. You can just be leaning over a little bit. We'll just be here for 3 more breaths. We'll Slowly coming on out. We'll step that back foot forward. We'll come to a fold. Then we'll bend the knees and come to our last chair. You're stretching the hoop up and in front of the head or flipping it behind you and having, holding onto the hoop with the palms. Take a good breath. And then fold the torso halfway, reaching the hip crease back, perhaps lifting the heels off of the ground and think legs really turned on. And when you're ready, go ahead, plant those heels down, lift up to straight legs and find a back bend. Open that front body and then fold, yeah. Inhale, flat back and step that left foot back. Bring this hoop into the inside of that front leg. If you did so or you lifted the hoop up before, go ahead and do so again. Either one is fine. I saw Kim do it this way again, so I feel like I want to do it again this way. You can fold over the hoop and reach the same hand as the back foot forward. And then we'll rise all the way up, bringing the torso up, still keeping a bend in that front knee as best you can. And release all that. Roll this hoop to the front of that front foot, step that back foot in just slightly, straightening both legs. Think sit bones moving away from each other, getting a wide booty. And then we'll fold over that hoop, keeping those front ribs to the back ribs as we travel on down wherever the hands lie, either on the top or perhaps you keep folding. Just notice how much are you leaning forward into that front foot, and can you bring a little bit more weight back? One more breath. We'll slowly come on up, and we'll step that back foot forward. Folding over. And when we lift, you're welcome to find one more back bend as you inhale, rise all the way up, perhaps finding one more back bend, really lift the bottom belly up, and then we'll bring the hoop right in front of us and just take a moment to pause and scan the body and the breath. All right, and I want to do one more little standing thing. I'm a little nervous. This might be a little tough for my mom, but you're here right now, so we're going to do it, and it'll give my mom something to work towards if it's too much of difficulty. All right, so we're going to pick up the right foot and place the right foot inside the hoop. And then draw that hoop. You're going to draw that knee up and bring that hoop right to underneath the very top of that thigh. So again, we're going to press the very top of the thigh down. I might want to look at you actually while I'm doing this because you can kind of see more. When we bring that knee up, that hip usually comes up a bit, so press the top of that thigh down into the hoop. Hug that standing hip in. And then from here, go ahead and extend that foot right out in front of you. You can use that hula hoop to help keep that leg lifted. And that hip flexor might be screaming to you again that we did on the ground. Let's go ahead and roll that hoop to the foot and use the hula hoop to lift the foot. Okay, so I saw what's going on with you, and you're not alone. We did a lot with the hip flexors today. Let's go ahead, bring that hoop to the outside of that standing leg. And then bring this foot and bring it back. We're just going to fold a bit here and find warrior 3. So you can encourage that hand on that inner thigh and just encourage the inner groin to the sky. Extend out through the heel. You can have the standing leg bent, but again, top of the standing thigh back, just the very, very top of the standing thigh back. Take a good breath. And then slowly come on out. Let's give you a little bit of a rest. But this next one you're going to probably enjoy a lot because I have a feeling this hip flexor is burning. Yeah, a little bit maybe, kind of. So let's go ahead. You can use this for balance and just kick that foot into your hand. If it doesn't work to kick the foot into the hand, you can also use the hoop, but I think I know that you have it, but if not, you can always just grab the foot with the hoop. Okay, great. So we have that. So here we're just gonna roll the hoop forward as we fold about halfway. Kick that foot into the hand as you find this little dancer's pose. And again, that foot kicking into the hand and opening that collarbone. Awesome. Take a good breath. Maybe 2 more. And then when you're ready, slowly come on out. If you want to get more of a quad stretch or hip flexor stretch, you can keep that heel there for a moment, or just bring it down. Release that side. Balancing poses. Okay. So now we gotta do it all on the other side. Step that left foot into the hoop. Bring that knee up into the chest and bring that hoop right to the top of both thighs. And then let that lifted thigh press into the hoop. From here, go ahead, extend that heel out. And that leg might be quivering and it's like, heck no, but you're like, yes, it is. And then this hoop that's at the top of these thighs, you can press it into the top of the standing thigh. All right. And then maybe you find it again with the foot. All right. And when you feel even enough, go ahead and bring that hoop to the outside of the standing leg. Kick that foot back and hinge at the hips, extending the inner thigh up. And again, totally cool to have this standing leg bent. It sometimes can help with balance, but that lifted leg, try to stay as straight as possible. And then the standing hip, the very, very top of the standing thigh, press it slightly back, even with the bend. You look great, you look great. Another breath. Slowly come on out. You want to go straight into the dancer's pose. We'll lift that heel, bring it into the bum, grab that foot, and then allow the inside of the arm, the biceps to roll back, opening up that chest. And then from here, we'll roll the hoop forward, kick that foot back, hinge at the hips, inner thigh, lifting. And keep thinking foot into the hand, as though the hand is gonna go back to that wall behind you. It's like making your arm longer. Take 2 more breaths. Slowly coming out. We'll release all of that. Good job. That's hard. All right. Since I know you love these, we'll find a downward dog at the back of the mat, and then we'll get into onto the floor. So back of mat. Inhale, raise the hoop to the sky. And exhale, we'll fold. Keeping a little mini bend in the knees if needed. Inhale to your flat back. And we'll walk our hands out to our downward facing dog, keeping the hoop at the tops of the thighs. And just taking a few breaths here. Just wiggling the hips if it feels good and letting that hoop at the top of the thighs, again, encourage the very top of the thighs back. Thinking nice and long arms, some space between the shoulder blades. Whenever you're ready, we'll come up onto our tippy toes and bring the knees down, and we'll lower all the way to the earth. So I'm definitely am going to leave you in Shavasana, but not yet. We're going to just get rid of the poop. We can be done with it. I want to make sure to get some strengthening on our backside before we leave, just because we've done a lot with the legs, and want to make sure to do our justice to our low back. So let's lift the right leg, extend it long, inner thigh lifting a little higher, and then bring that foot onto the earth. And we'll lift the left thigh up, drag it back, make it longer, inner thigh lift, and bring it back down. And just try to sense, can you feel both sides of the pelvic floor, not just the right, not just the left, but sense both sides. So our arms will be in front of us, but we'll keep the arms on the ground for a moment. You can bring your forehead to the earth even if you want to. Keep your chin on the, or your chest on the ground. Let's go ahead and lift that right leg, lift the right thigh, think more length than height. But then what's happening with the pelvic floor? Are they both on the ground still, or do you need to encourage one side down a little bit more? It's usually the one that's not lifted. So just notice that, and then bring the foot down, lift the left leg, and see what's going on. Make sure both hips are on the ground. And then we'll lower that leg. Let's go ahead and reach the right leg up, bring it down, and bring the left leg up and bring it down. This time we'll add the arms. Let's lift the right leg up, thigh lifted. Reach the left hand up, give a thumbs up, and reach out the pinky. Lift the chest as well, just slightly, again, more length than height, and lower everything to the earth. We'll lift the left leg up, inner thigh lifting, and then lift the right hand up, the right arm, and then lift the chest and reach in either direction. And go ahead, lower. And then right leg, lift left arm, reach and lower. Left leg lifts, right arm lifts, reach in either direction and lower. And now we'll do it at the same time. The left hand and the right leg, same time. Lower. And then left leg, right arm, same time. And lower. And one more time each side. Opposites lift. And lower. Opposites lift. And lower. And then now all four sides for a few breaths, maybe about 3 inhales and exhales. Feel like a starfish going in 4 different directions. One more breath. And release yourself down to the earth. Just let yourself rest. If you want to move the hips and windshield wiper around, feel free to, or just find stillness, either or. Releasing all that effort. Before we get too sleepy, before Shavasana, let's get moving just so you can have more rest on your back. Let's bring our hands on either side of our collarbone and lift up to your knees and just find a quick little child's pose, bringing the hips back towards the heels. They might not make it all the way to the heels. That's okay. You can have the hips lifted a little bit, whatever works. Slowly make your way onto your back. I know I said we were done with the hoop, but maybe we weren't actually. I did want to find this one more time on our back. But we'll leave the left leg on the ground, outstretch it, and then bring the right foot onto the hoop and reach that foot up towards the sky and just allow there to be one more stretch in the back of the leg and bring more attention to the back of the leg than the hip flexor. So with the foot making connection to the hoop and with no connection to the top of the thigh, can you just bring your attention to the top of that lifted thigh and encourage the top of the thigh away from your middle as that foot is being encouraged towards your head. Just take another breath here. Great. And then we'll bring that foot all the way back down. You can guide it with the hoop if you want, or just let it come all the way down to the mat. Then leave the right leg stretched out on the mat and bring the left foot onto the hoop and bring that leg up towards the sky. So same thing here. Sometimes when we have the hoop at the top of our thigh, it can maybe bring too much attention to our hip flexor rather than our hamstring. So right now, bring attention to the hamstring, even though you're imagining the very, very top of this left thigh moving away from your belly button as the foot is trying to keep creeping up to your chest. We'll slowly release that leg. Now we will be done with the hoop. Let's bend both of the knees. Just going to do one more thing with you before Shavasana. Let's bend both of the knees, lift the hips up, bring them over to the right side of the mat, bring the feet over to the right side of the mat. We'll cross that right foot over the left knee, the arms out at a T at shoulder height, and then drop that right foot and the left knee over towards the left, finding yourself in a twist, turning the gaze over the right shoulder. If you felt like you wanted to, you can bring that hand to the top of that right thigh and just encourage the thigh away from the body, just ever so gentle, not forcing anything. Or if you wanted more outer hip stretch, you can grab the ankle and walk it up. Either one. But again, not really efforting too much, allowing this to be a slow relaxation before Shavasana. Another breath. Slowly come back up to center. And then bring the foot down. Lift the hips up and come into the middle of the mat first. Wiggle the feet into the middle of the mat too. Lift the hips up and bring them over to the left. The feet go to the left. Bring the left foot on top of the right and keeping the left shoulder blade on the mat as you knock the knee and the foot to the right, turning the gaze to the left. Whatever you did on the other side, you're welcome to do again. If you place the hand on top of the thigh, that just creates a little bit more space in the torso, and then the hand on the foot brings a little bit more attention to the outer hip. But not straining at all. While you're here in this twist, I think of twists as kind of cleaning yourself out and wringing yourself out. There was something I almost mentioned in the beginning of class, and it was a podcast that I was listening to by Jay Shetty, and Mel Robbins appeared on it as a guest speaker, and she said something that I loved, and It just made sense to me, especially in the world of yoga. She said, there's sometimes you'll find mirrors, and these mirrors are just extremely dusty. She's like, you can't even see yourself in the mirror. And she's like, you're still there, you're still behind the dust, it's just you can't see yourself. She said, but the dust isn't you, it's just what's accumulated over your life and over at least the mirror's lifespan. Go ahead and just slowly come on out of that, and then bring the feet and the hips into the middle of the mat. And once you're there, go ahead and hug the knees into your chest and let the knees move away from each other. You're welcome to get a little inner thigh stretch by finding a happy baby or whatever you want to do here. Maybe a bridge pose is calling your name. Do whatever you want to do before your Shavasana. But I found that really interesting because I feel like yoga and any of your health and wellness kind of practices is de-dusting. De-dusting or dusting. So it's just kind of nice to think, what's going on in your life? Is your mirror kind of dusty? Do you see yourself clearly? Or do you feel like you're in line with your purpose? Or is there areas of your life that you kind of just need some cleaning up? And if you're still finding yourself, go ahead, lower to the earth all the way to your Shavasana. And perhaps you just don't even know, am I dusty or am I not? And that's great to just be in a place of questioning. Perhaps you don't know, and wonderful. Keep asking yourself though, and more realizations will come as you ask yourself these questions. You'll find yourself in Shavasana with the legs open, and again checking in and seeing, can I sense that opening of the legs all the way up to my hips? And even with this opening, can I encourage the inner thighs just slightly down towards the earth? Having your arms heavy with the hands open to receive. And thinking a long neck, shoulders heavy. And can you sense that the brain is moving into the back of the skull? And again, that skull is hammocking into the earth. Just take one more conscious inhale in. And as you exhale, feel as though you're releasing into the earth, releasing into your full relaxation. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your Shavasana.